are some of the most baffling sea creatures. What's the deal with them? Do they even exist? Are they fish or mammals? Lots of questions have been ringing across the human race for ages. At least every society has folklore about a half-human and half-fish creature roaming in the waters. Some even report sightings amid skepticism from those who believe these animals do not exist. In today's video, we take a look at some of the reported known sightings of mermaids, or close enough sea creatures. Number 10. South Island, New Zealand. Fishing is a major economic activity for any community near a natural water body. But sometimes it's not only fish that are caught on those fishing lines. The fishermen on South Island, New Zealand, for instance, caught a suspicious-looking animal in 2014. At first, they thought they had stumbled upon a dead person's body, maybe murdered, and their body dumped into the ocean. They called the New Zealand Coast Guard, who in turn alerted the local authorities about the strange-looking corpse. The local authorities, on close observation, concluded that the remains weren't entirely those of a human being. There was no denying there were parts of an uncanny resemblance to those of humans. But on the other hand, there were entirely different parts that you're likely to see on an aquatic animal. It was a bizarre find, and naturally, one that got people talking across the whole of New Zealand. The police were just as puzzled as the general public. To help with unraveling the mystery behind this find, they enlisted the help of forensic and anthropological experts from the University of Auckland. To this day, the skeleton remains as one of the most real mermaid finds. Number 9. Kai Islands, Indonesia. The mermaid sighting on the Indonesian island of Kai came at the height of World War II. It's probably one of the well-documented mermaid appearances to date. Here's what went down. The Japanese had stationed a surveillance troop on the island, but what they ran into over there had nothing to do with the war. Several soldiers reported seeing rather strange sea creatures spotting human-like features. The humanoid figures could have approximately 150 centimeters in length. Both the hands and feet were webbed and their heads had spines. The mouths had spiny teeth, like those you'd expect in a carp's. The face on the other side was said to be a blend of human-like and ape-like features. And they also had hair, shoulder-length hair as described by a Japanese sergeant who was called to observe the dead one. The Japanese soldiers spotted these animals playing around in the waters and would occasionally beach themselves. When the soldiers brought up these sights with the locals, they were told the creatures were commonplace on the island. They even had a name, Rang Kai, which translates to human fish. Number 8. Kakwe and Osborne Dams, Zimbabwe. Just like in Indonesia, half-human and half-fish creatures have a special name, the Mamba Muntu. Their appearance is usually associated with a bad omen, as per the local myths and beliefs. And going by incidences in 2012, this might not be much of a myth, but rather a fact. Construction workers were getting down at a site, setting up the Kakwe and Osborne dams on the Odzi River, when they encountered the infamous Mabu Muntu. It was just one, but it was such an inconvenience to the whole crew. According to reports, the mermaid appeared to have been pissed for some reason, and took it out on the workers. The workers had to abandon the project along the way because of the aforementioned beliefs. They made it clear that resuming their duties on the dams was out of the question. But the project had to be completed. So the local authorities enlisted the labor of white workers. This was under the pretext that these laborers didn't care much about Mamba Muntu's bad rep. How mistaken they were. The second batch also had to leave due to the harassment by the mermaid. The work had to stop for some time. Traditional leaders were called in to perform a set of rituals aimed at appeasing the angry mermaids. Number 7. Buffaljags River, South Africa. Here's another African country popular with mermaid sightings. South Africa has a long history of mermaids. It dates back to thousands of years, back when the Khoisan inhabited the African country. There were numerous paintings of half-human and half-fish creatures on walls, which goes to show that the idea of mermaids were ingrained in their culture early on. Interestingly, these paintings have been spotted in some of the driest parts of the country. How then did these early inhabitants encounter the aquatic animals? Perhaps this isn't much of a hard question when you consider some of these regions once lied underwater. Most recently in 2008, sightings were reported in Buffaljags River in Surabrak town, Western Cape Province. According to a local, Daniel Cupido, he and a group of friends were having a chill along the river banks when they heard a sound, almost like someone bashing a wall. They got curious and decided to find out what it could be. At first, they thought they could see the face of a white woman with long black hair, but when Daniel went for a closer look, came back terrified with quite an unsettling account of what he had seen. The white-faced woman turned out to have red glowing eyes, and she wasn't completely human. This is something that one of the friends, Martin Oklers, confirmed when he went to check. Number 6. Kiryat Yam, Israel. Unlike our last two mermaids, who were rather vile, the one at Kiryat Yam, Israel, was quite a darling. This was in 2009. Appearing only at dusk, she took delight in having people watch. Both locals and tourists gathered to watch the humanoid figure perform for them, but it was probably more than a few tricks that kept these people around. The possibility that the performer would have been the famous half-fish and half-human made the shows a must-attend. It didn't take long before the first account of how exactly the performer looked was in. According to one of the locals, he charged upon the mermaid when she was sunbathing. When he went in for a closer look, she quickly made for the waters. At this point, the curious observer with his friends noted that, in place of legs, the supposedly young woman had a tail. Soon, lots of different people started giving accounts supporting this sighting. The town was soon buzzing with the story of the mermaids, so much that the town council offered $1 million to anyone with explicit information that indeed the mermaid was real. No one has claimed the reward yet. Number 5. Hispaniola Island, the Caribbean. Famed Italian explorer Christopher Columbus is known to have encountered several mermaids on his voyage near Hispaniola in the Caribbean Sea. Columbus wrote in the ship's log that he saw at least 3 mermaids in the water around Hispaniola Island. They were quite playful, just jumping around the water. When Columbus and his crew came near in their ship, the 3 mermaids rose out of the water. Delightful as it might sound, the explorer wasn't so impressed by what he saw. He expected the creatures to be the epitome of beauty as painted in folktales. But here, they didn't look anything like that. They were downright unattractive and mannish, according to him. Some people doubt that Christopher Columbus and his crew saw mermaids. They insist that the explorer might have seen manatees, known in some quarters as sea cows. But that's debatable, especially when you consider how inexperienced seaman Columbus was. Can't he surely tell apart a sea cow from a humanoid? On the flip side, though, everyone makes mistakes, even the most experienced. So maybe Columbus didn't see mermaids. Number 4. Newark Bay, Scotland. Mermaids feature considerably in Scottish folklore, and mermaid sightings are just as many across the country. Newark Bay is one of the places that reported not one, but several cases of mermaids in the 19th century. In 1890, rumors started flying that there was a mermaid in the bay. They were treated as that, rumors. But soon, more people came forward with their own accounts of one lurking just around the bay. They even gave her a name, the Dearness Mermaid. According to locals, the mermaid was about 7 feet in length, had pale white skin, and spotted long black hair. She used her arms to crawl onto the rocks in the bay and would later slide back into the waves. All these observations were made from a distance. Apparently, Dearness was extra careful not to come too close to the beach. The mermaid didn't stay for long in the bay. She disappeared after a few summers, never to be seen again. Number 3. Main Island, British Columbia. In 1967, mermaid talk hit the larger British Columbia when a supposed humanoid was seen on the shores of Main Island. And guess what she was doing? Just chilling on the beach without a care in the world. According to ferry riders that evening, they saw a blonde woman with equally blonde hair. She was topless and had a porpoise tail in place of legs. Some even claimed to have seen her eating raw salmon. The mermaid was seen again the next week. As a lot of people began to seek information about the mermaid, the Colonist, which was the town's newspaper, offered a $25,000 reward for information. Accommodation arrangements for the mermaid had even been arranged, but they never saw her again. This led to a good number of people to term the sighting as a hoax. Now it's time for today's best pick. Today's photo was sent to us by a subscriber, so if you come across a photo online and want to know more details about it, just send it over to us. We might even feature it in a future video. Number 2. Kaneohe Marine Biology Institute, United States. The photo was taken in Hawaii, US. The exact place where the mermaid was discovered is still unclear. Also, what happened to the body of the mermaid is unknown. Authorities came in immediately after they were notified of the mermaid corpse. It was then taken to the University of Hawaii's Kaneohe Marine Biology Institute for examination. That was in 2014. Up to this day, no information about the mermaid has been divulged. While some strongly believe that it was a mermaid, others think it was some sort of prop that was used in the movie Pirates of the Caribbean. It's up to the authorities to clear the doubts, but we doubt they'll ever do that, seeing it's several years since the discovery. Number 1. Benbecula, Scotland. Yes, Scotland again. As already mentioned, the country has its fair share of mermaid legends. Just like the previous sighting, the mermaid in Benbecula was spotted in the 19th century, just earlier in 1830. A woman was out in the waters harvesting seaweed when she spotted another smaller woman swimming. Naturally, she was taken aback, so she called in more people to have a look at her find. The swimmer was startled by all the men closing in on her, and off she went. A few people peddled the mermaid with stones, and at least one of them might have injured her seriously. She succumbed to the injuries a few days later, and the corpse washed up on the shore.